Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Samson's Pull-Up Tray episode. It's another one of the live episodes. However, it is one of the live episodes. Maybe I don't know. You haven't done a Saturday before, so this is
Wait,
the
does
first
this count
Saturday.
as a cross?
I guess it's kind of like a little Jamal Crawford, little Allen Iverson crossover style thing. Oh, geez. Somebody's internet is kind of... Anyway, Trey, I'm letting you know right now, I think your internet is maybe on the kaputs. Now I'm going to keep driving this thing forward. Hello to everybody and welcome to a Saturday episode of the Pull-Up Tray podcast. We are about to enjoy ourselves upon the bounty of listener questions. And we love listener questions because those are the people who make the show go. But regardless, make sure to like the video, make sure to comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, because it helps supply us with the algorithmic boost that we need to continue going forward as one of Canada's favorite basketball podcasts, which is, of course, the niche we occupy. Trey, you pulled up. How's you pulled out? How's it going, man? You know, how's this Saturday?
I'm feeling good. I'm in my basketball mode, feeling like you. I guess you're like kind of like Hannah Montana. Like you live double lives outside of me when it comes to the Raptors. So I'm locked in to see what a Saturday looks like.
Okay, yeah, double life Hannah Montana. I guess quick apologies to the people who are man, they missed Thursday's episode. We will be back to regularly scheduled programming. I thought I was going to have an awesome week off, dude. I thought I was going to climb like 4 times. I thought I was going to be doing stuff, bro. The sickness came and whapped me, dude. I couldn't believe it. I worked hard to get here for this Saturday. And also, just as a quick thing for future, do you want to talk about Dylan Harper on Wednesday night when we record? Should we do the Dylan talk?
Yeah, I feel like we've been pushing it off. I've gotten a message like near daily of asking about the draft. So
well, that's half these questions that we got on here are just like, What do you think? Nobody, and I know a lot of these people listen, so they've heard me say we're gonna go one by one. We have to watch the film, and they're like, "What about these Stephen guys?" And I'm like, "But damn, I haven't seen them yet, man." Oh, you know what I did while I was sick? I partook in a Trey delicacy. Modern Family.
Wow.
Over and over and over. I watched a lot of episodes of Modern Family.
That was a classic.
Do you have a favorite character? Or who are the best characters in your mind?
The dad, obviously. He just like I feel like I'm him in like 20 years. He just points out everything.
The old white dad?
The older gentleman, yes.
Okay. Jesus Lord.
I forgot all these characters' names. It's been like years since.
Well, okay, so there's Gloria. I like a lot. Gloria,
of course, yeah.
Great. She's super funny. She's super likable. I like Cam, the big gentleman.
Oh yeah,
he's so funny.
Phil is the GOAT, actually.
Phil is very funny. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I just want to put that out there.
Not as good as How I Met Your Mother, though.
It's much better than How I Met Your Mother, first.
Sure.
Okay, secondly, we have questions. We should start talking basketball. It's like 4 minutes in, dude. Okay. The title of this podcast is The Road to the Raptors Championship or something like that. And because people keep asking us about the future, because, you know, even though there was a good game last night, it wasn't inspired by tremendous Scottie performance or, you know, the guys who we think will motivate the Raptors going forward haven't been popping off that much lately. I mean, Scottie's been struggling to score the ball. We're still waiting on Brandon Ingram, not even to play, but to wear the jersey. He just held it out in front. He's like a little tease. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, maybe I put this on. Maybe I don't. We'll see. And all these questions are like, hey, how do you fix the NBA? How do you fix the Raptors? How do they make it go forwards? Here's the thing from Abdel Taco. In the case they try to turn RJ or IQ plus picks into another piece next to Brandon Ingram and Scottie, what type of player are you looking for? Booker, Desmond Bane would be nice. Not sure if realistic. LaMelo. Also, probably not a huge upgrade, but I want Kobe White on the Raps. I like him. Abdel, you may not know, but ND was in chat the other day advocating for your fandom of Kobe White, wherein I said I also love Kobe White. I'll take Kobe White on this team any which way or the other. As far as the Raptors and their plans for the future, I do want to take this opportunity to kind of pad out with you, Trey, where the Raptors are. They're pretty close to the tax. They clearly have to have either a fantastic, unbelievable starting five with Jakob Poeltl, Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickley, or one of those guys has to transition into a six-man of the year candidate, or there has to be a pivot. Basically, these guys have to have some sort of insane synergy. They have to play extremely effective basketball. They have to be extremely good. Otherwise, there's a pivot coming. What type of player are you looking for? I know Abdel said like Booker, Desmond Bane. I know, but when you look at who fits on this team and you're trying to pad out into the future, this team's really great, contending. What type of players are we looking for here?
Like in terms of like archetype, they still need someone that can drive the ball and can create space in that way for others. Can do that within a sense, and you saw that yesterday. But a lot of that comes off of secondary stuff. That's him coming off of a cross screen, having a curl drive and being able to score in that function, which does stress the defense. But from a standstill situation where you have to be able to create and get downhill and score in that functionality, the Raptors are very challenged. That's why they haven't been the greatest in clutch situations. They can't really dribble. Like Brandon Ingram kind of solves some of that, and I hope he drives more, but a lot of the creation ends in a mid-range shot, which doesn't necessarily strain the defense. So in terms of like a player, not saying they're going to trade for him, but like a buy low on John Moran, who isn't having the greatest season right now, like makes sense to me. He's a guy that can drive really well. He's played with a star similar to Scottie in like the offensive sense in Jaren Jackson. I think the Raptors could build a great defense around him. He hits a higher tier of playing. He already has played with a guy like Darko and his system, and you buy low on that and be able to hopefully pair Scottie, Brandon, and maybe Gradey, maybe RJ. Who knows who goes in that trade? And you have a really, really strong starting five, which is a top 4 seed.
Scottie plus Ja, I think, is like the locker room aspect is probably nuts. Like I don't even know what would be going on there. However, agreed, because I know it's not like it's not the sexiest name available because Ja is in a down year. The same way when I was saying like Darius Garland last year, everyone's like, why Darius? You know, but that's when you're bargain binning. You want to, like, when you go to Winners, you don't want the $5 thing that was, you know, like $27. Well, maybe you do. Let's say you don't want the $1 thing that was $5, but you do want the $20 thing that was $100. It's like these are the types of wins that we're going to try and find. Ja would be very interesting. I don't think, like, as the Grizzlies just said, they came out and they're like, this is not something we're entertaining. I would be quite surprised if that were the case. However, it's a good idea, right? Because it's like the Raptors need a ton of extremely, like, fantastic, unbelievable live dribble creation. And then you have guys who can fit in around that. And the Raptors have tried to get that piecemeal from a bunch of different guys around the roster, RJ being the best at it so far. Perhaps Ingram will be the best at it once everybody's healthy. But no matter what, when you look at this roster, you know they're coming up short in that regard. It should be interesting to see how the Raptors try and like wriggle their way to that type of player. But then also, like, Dylan Harper is supposed to be, he's obviously not Ja level in terms of like knifing into the lane, but he's supposed to be able to provide that. He's starting to get RJ Barrett comps. I don't know if you've seen this lately.
Yeah, I've seen the pull-up
which is kind of funny. We got the tweet that was like, everyone said this draft is supposed to be great. It's not as good as we thought. It happens every year like clockwork, dude. It's between Ja, Booker, who I guess like you take Booker there, yeah, still.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. Like obviously, like he doesn't fix some of their core issues, but like shooting kind of solves a lot of that stuff. Like he can create in spaces and create within a phone booth, and all of the actions that RJ gets, you add Devin Booker to that with the threat of being able to actually shoot from all of those spots, and it creates space and it creates spacing for guys like Scottie, even with that type of gravity.
Yeah. Also, as Abdel says, is like, what type of player are you looking for? The Raptors have like a staunch big, and you can make your bones with whether you want the stretch big or not, and then you can try and go for that if that's ever available to the Raptors. So you could switch out Jakob, let's say, but I don't think that's what the Raptors should be looking to do immediately, especially with what else they need on the team. And then Brandon Ingram is a facsimile of a million different scoring wings. He does it different than some guys, different than others, but it's hard to imagine upgrading Brandon Ingram because like you can, it's just hard to do. He's the
tier below. He's the tier below of like really big time offensive playmaker, and to create that type of player that's like one out of like 10 to 15 guys in the NBA. You just have to get lucky to get them. The Raptors got lucky and only had that type of player for 1 year.
Yeah. It's and then you have Brandon Ingram. Can you get better? Very tough. You'd be shaking up the wing position. Scottie Barnes is kind of like an archetype unto himself. I know a lot of people say he's like Draymond, or if you're like, I've seen him get 3 comps, but mostly 2 his whole career. It's like Giannis and Draymond Green. I don't think he's been like either of those guys. Draymond has never, ever had the offensive juice that Scottie Barnes has had. Yeah. Like not for a second, not in his best year. I know he had the 1 year where he shot really well from 3. He had all the 3s in the game 7. That was incredible. But like Scottie's always had more in his tool bag. And the Giannis comparison is just incredibly lofty. And so Scottie is like his own thing. You don't look to replace or remove that. RJ is that driving force, like the significant driving force on the team right now. Emmanuel Quickley is a very important skill set archetype. What you just said was that like Brandon is a cut below, like of that top class. And the Raptors have a couple guys who are a cut below the top class. And I think Brandon and Scottie, they're sitting outside of it in that all-star looking to jump into all NBA level impact, I guess, area. However, between like Jakob, RJ, and IQ, these are all guys who sit below all-star status. And in that, they need an upgrade, they need development, they need something. And if they could get LaMelo, sure. What the hell? I know like you love him. Wait, pitch me on LaMelo. Let's hear the LaMelo pitch.
All right, guys, do see this in chat. LaMelo Ball is my favorite player in the NBA, outside of LeBron James. If that were to happen, like putting on my fan cap, I will shed tears and personally hug Masai myself. I think he's another like buy low opportunity. It's clear like the reception and thought of in him in the league doesn't correlate to where some of his numbers are. He didn't make the All-Star team. You're hoping for him, like his numbers scoring inside have increased, but his 3-point attempts have gone dramatically up to the top of the league, and his 3-point talent doesn't necessarily match that in general. He's shown that he can put the ball inside and be a driver. You saw him close out the Lakers doing that just this week. You're hoping that he can do some of the things that he did earlier in his career when he was playing with Terry Rozier, playing with Gordon Hayward, being able to be a driving force, also work off ball and be interchangeable in that standpoint. And then just like the playmaking when he is able to get downhill is at the top of the NBA. You have an opportunity, if he is healthy, that you can pair a guy that becomes an all NBA guy and is your guy to pair with Scottie. I think for him, for the Raptors, he probably is like the most gettable, but is also the riskiest.
Again, and like that would be a crazy locker room as well.
Yeah.
The Raptors, man. We're going to talk a little bit more about like personality side stuff because we got a couple fun Brandon Ingram questions. Also, the Kobe White aspect, just to round out Abdel's question. For anybody who's saying like, hey, why are we just talking about trading for superstars right now? Basketball. It's a mailbag episode. We respond to, like, this is for the listeners. You ask the questions, we respond. Things will be like afterwards, they're time stamped. I go back and I listen and then make sure everybody, if you only want to listen to one thing, go ahead. If you want to listen to 3 or 7, whatever it needs to be. Kobe White, in my estimation, is as good or better than Emmanuel Quickley, and he makes like $12 million a year. His contract is insane, dude.
Yeah, it's one of the best in the league.
Yeah, it doesn't go that much farther, though. I think it's like maybe 12 this year, maybe close to 13 next year, and then done. However, Joseph Cassidy says Scottie is his own beast. It's like the Kobe commercial, right? With Kanye, It's like be a different animal, but the same beast. Is that the term? Whatever. Oh, God, I was going to make an insane joke. I'll tell you right now, it would have made you laugh so hard, but I would have felt bad after making it. Okay, so from ND Talks Ball, if the Raptors were to get number 1, how would you personally deal with the logjam at the wing position versus how do you think the Raptors would deal with it? Okay, another transaction shuffling the starting lineup type thing, right? Cosmo says, pop on the stream, immediate IQ slander, never changed. Oh, dude, I didn't mean it. I really didn't mean it. I just really like Kobe White. I've liked him since he got drafted. IQ played an awesome game last night, I thought. Yeah. Especially since he was up against Davion Mitchell. That's funny, though. That's funny, though, Cosmo. Oh, man. That's not even slander. It's like, I just think Kobe is better. That's fine. Anyway, but it's deserved. I shouldn't be fighting this. Anyway, how do the Raptors deal with the logjam of Cooper Flagg entering this lineup? I did the Cooper Flagg scout last year. Not last year. Jesus Lord. I did it last week. Last Saturday. Yeah. Oh, God. It's going sideways. And Cooper looked awesome. Definitely deserving of a first overall pick. I didn't think that he looked generational to me. Generational, I thought. But generational is a very, very high bar. It's in the name. And Mel says, can we talk about picks that are not Cooper Flagg? Mel, you should ask the question under the tweet, Mel. We're responding to listener questions, Mel. And so
we're going to do this for several weeks across.
Yeah, months, dude. We're going to be talking about this for months and months and months. Okay, so what would the Raptors do with a logjam with Cooper Flagg? Trey, you just skipped out there for a little second. So what would we do? Cooper Flagg, I think, is your... Wait, are you playing Cooper Flagg at power forward or small forward? Where's Scottie for you?
Them playing together is tough. I would probably play my power forward and play Scottie at small. Scottie showed me more guarding wings than he did last year, so I think that'd be fine.
I think that would be a stupidly large team. You'd be looking at Scottie Barnes at... I think I'm playing Scottie at the 4. Well, offensively, I think I'm putting Scottie up in the rotation. Offensively, I'm putting Cooper down in the rotation. I guess defensively or offensively, yeah. So I think Cooper at small forward. I think Scottie at power forward. I guess Brandon Ingram is playing at the 2. My God, man, that's an absurdity. I don't even know how you get away with all that length. And especially with, as Josh said on the Road Trip podcast, there's an overlap between Cooper Flagg and Brandon Ingram in like what they like to do. There's also, they're like, it's like the Venn diagram. They're all sharing that centerpiece, and they all have a lot of these, I guess, overlaps in tendency that they like to perform in. But man, I think Cooper at small forward, Brandon Ingram at the 2, and I think you probably want Scottie at the 4. That's probably how I'm shaking up the logjam. And then as far as like, are you asking, should the Raptors be, let's say, trading out of this? I don't think the Raptors should make those types of decisions. You got to see that first. But yeah, as far as Cooper goes, Trey, welcome back to the podcast. But yeah, I think it's Cooper at the 3, Scottie at the 4, and Brandon at the 2. And then that's offensively, though. Defensively, it gets switched up all the time. Because I think Cooper, you want him at the 4 defensively. But I want him at the 3 offensively. All this is kind of whatever. What are you trying to? What's the depth chart look like for you?
Like, it's tough. Like, in the ideal situation, you want like Cooper to just like work his way up and like show you immediately. But like, how often is the first overall pick that's that good? It like doesn't start immediately. So it would be tough. So I think you're bumping down. Well, you're clearly like bumping down like Gradey, obviously. Gradey is going to be on the bench, so maybe quickly, because his best skill set, I think, like Brandon Ingram can take up a lot of those like ball handling responsibilities, and you play RJ, Coop, Scottie, and Jakob, and you just play this really big lineup. You have Masai live his fantasy of Vision 6'9" with a lot more shooting skill, hopefully. And
That's a hopefully though, because that's not like
it is a real hopefully. It's a Noah Board hope. But
if you're taking IQ off,
yeah,
and you're hoping for spacing between RJ, Cooper, Brandon, and Scottie, like Brandon shoots better than Pascal from 3. So that's the improvement there. Scottie shoots better than the past version of himself, probably. Is there an OG upgrade? Is there a Fred upgrade? I feel like it's scary hours, dude.
That is. They're long enough that their defense might be very, very good, though. That might be the swing.
Who's guarding point guards? Is it RJ?
It might have to be Scottie, to be honest.
Oh my days. No, IQ is in that lineup for me, dude. Like that's non-negotiable.
It'd be tough to bench RJ, in my opinion, considering how well he's played.
Jeez.
It was a good problem to have.
Yeah, I don't think you can bench.
That's what I'm saying. He's played so well, you can't bench him.
It's kind of funny. I was about to say like future conversations, but we were asked this now. Yeah. God. Yeah, I think Cooper comes off the bench. Maybe.
Wow.
Or God, dude, I don't know. Like there's JD says there's no logjam. Cooper plays shooting guard. I'll tell you what I think the Raptors do. I think the Raptors probably move RJ to the bench, if I had to guess.
I think if you're doing that, I think that just leads to RJ being traded in the summer, to be honest. And then it makes it much easier.
I think that's probably because again, you and I have been huge fans of and like optimists with RJ since he's been a Raptor, even prior, right? And so this isn't either of us, I don't think, but when I read the tea leaves or like kind of, you talk to people or whatever, it's like RJ doesn't have as much sway with the organization as you may think. And just because RJ is like the Canadian boy, homegrown, and he's putting up the numbers, the Raptors certainly haven't like included RJ as like the staunch piece of the future. Now, I guess there's room for that to change, but in my estimation, we're looking at a team that isn't fully sold on RJ Barrett, whether that's deserved or not. I think that's my read of the situation currently. Okay, from Jamie. Has your view on Jamal Shead evolved over the past 10 to 15 games? Are you a believer that he's a legit backup? Is there Fred level upside? Totally different players, of course. This is a good one. Jamal Shead has been better than I expected him to be at the start of the season. His offensive game has been better. His sense of pace with the ball in hand has been better. I was very much like unimpressed with how much of his shot diet was short mid-range push shots for so much of the season. But that doesn't mean that he is unimpressive from there. He's done a good job of making shots from there when he gets put in a difficult situation. His off-ball cutting has been fairly high level. Some of that is teams don't pay that much attention to him, but you know what? You make teams pay. And when we look at a guy who's able to change pace, get downhill, he's been able to provide some of that pop sometimes. And he's shooting better from 3. He has a pretty simplistic jumper. He keeps the elbow tight. He locks it in. It's very rigid, but he's got it where it needs to be. Jamal has definitely been better than I thought. I'm curious where you sit on him, Trey, because I know you watched him a lot in college.
See, for me, I'm still disappointed for the most part. Like the defense was supposed to be like the calling point where he gets minutes in a similar sense to like Jose Alvarado, for example. His defense is too good. Even I guess Davion is the clear example. His defense is too good to keep him on the bench, and that hasn't necessarily worked itself out. Like with the shooting, I was actually more of an optimist just because his catch and shoot shooting was fairly decent in his last year in Houston. But I think a lot of the stuff that he does on the ball, when the Raptors are good, you probably don't want any of that stuff. Like when the Raptors are trying to win games next year, you don't want a possession ending in a Jamal shed floater. And a lot of the driving stuff, because of his size, like the playmaking isn't necessarily able to pop in the same way. He's usually looking to score because he can't kick out to the weak side corner because there's a 7-foot man on top of him. I think his game simplifies with better guys in the lineup. You probably have RJ being able to play more bench lines, for example, and keep him off of the ball. So I think there's still a pathway for him being like a good quality NBA player, but I don't necessarily think that's being a primary backup point guard. I think that is being an off-ball player, being able to work off other guys, and being like a menace defensively. Like the defense needs to hit that plane that was shown in Houston.
It is interesting because the Fred level upside, I don't see it. Like Fred made an all-star game, and Fred still, you could argue Fred isn't like, good luck arguing him over Şengün for many people, but you could argue that Fred has been like at least the second best player on a Houston team that wins a lot of games. And as someone who was lower on Fred the whole time Fred was a Raptor until the last season, when it was no longer basketball, it was politics. And if you said one good thing about Fred, it was like, oh, this guy loves Fred. I thought that Fred was a little like overrated in Toronto, but he was still good in Toronto, even when people said he was the reason the Raptors lost, which that was not the case. He's been a very, very strong guard, like starting guard for a long time. He's helped win playoff games. I mean, yeah, I don't see Fred level for Jamal Shed. However, man, Jamal is better than I thought he would be, but still, you watch like guys guard him. They're not super locked in. He is getting like okay, yeah, Jamal's on ball. Like it's not too much of a worry. I'll be interested to see once he becomes like a vaunted part of a winning rotation and see if those creation reps still kind of stick around. This happened with Gradey, right? Like Gradey in this season is a guy who he beat the, I guess, the defensive matchups, and then the defensive matchups ratcheted up their intensity, right? And now you watch Gradey try and live off ball every single game. Guys are glued to him. He does not get to float. He doesn't get space. When he tries to run off screens, he gets crowded, he gets pushed, he gets bumped. And it's way more effective now than it was at the start of the year because it's just like guys lock in on him. Yeah. Now, Jamal, I think, will get that attention if he continues playing lots more minutes and the Raptors are playing more meaningful games. I'm interested to see what his counters look like then. And if there's a guy who can survive on just like push shots and catch and shoot threes, we'll see. Yeah, but I think he can be, I think Jamal can be like, I think he can be a backup guard in the NBA, but the defense has to come around because his defense is still bad. Like, I know he achieves a lot of the aesthetic stuff that people like to see when people play defense, but Jamal, he has the potential to do it. Obviously, it just hasn't come around yet. Sophia Serrano says Şengün is also extremely overrated. Hell yeah, dude. That's right, he is. I'll tell you who's better. Trey Murphy the third. We're going to hang on to this for a long time, Trevon. From Jamie as well. What's the upside scenario you're hoping to see from Gradey and Jacoby post All-Star break? What could each player look like, and how do they impact games? In what areas do we see improvement? Do you want to take one, and I'll take the other? Who do you want, Jacoby or Gradey?
I'll do Jacoby. Because I think we're already kind of seeing some of that stuff.
Yeah,
with yesterday especially. Like the 3-point shooting, you just wanted to live up to like it's his reputation as a prospect, and it's doing that of late. The defense, he's very pesky. He competes the hardest out of majority of the team, especially on the ball. Him grow is being able to put the ball down on the floor, make decisions in that sense as a processor, and become a playmaker in some sense. Like Jacoby, for the most part, when he puts the ball down on the floor, it has ended it with a shot the large majority of his possessions. Although those are probably few and in between, he has the athleticism to become a creator in that standpoint, and why he was getting top 5 buzz earlier in the season. He needs to show that he can be able to put the ball on the floor, play make from those spots, and then also utilize that position on the court to shot create and become a good pull-up shooter from those standpoints. If he does any of that stuff, you're thinking of him at like a higher tier all-star. I think what he's shown this year thus far is that when he's hitting his shots, like the defense might become good enough where like he's your 4th or 5th best player in your starting 5. He's a Aaron Nesmith, for example, that is tenable within your lineup, defends other guards, and is totally fine. But you might be looking for like an upgrade when you're serious about contending.
Jacoby is really interesting because he is very north-south athlete. Nothing in his movement patterns is like east-west. He's very, and the scope of his dribble is very narrow. His movement patterns are very narrow. Like we talked about LaMelo, right? And LaMelo has these huge sweeping crosses, and LaMelo bounces from like one spot to the other. And like that is how we think of wiggle. And I'm writing a piece about Jacoby right now. I've been watching a lot of film, and Jacoby is more like wriggle. Wiggle is these big movements where and wriggle is like kind of like small movements struggling against something. And you can see that Jacoby, when he gets in the lane, can like wriggle and bump and squirm and get to shots and hit them. And that's a talent unto itself. But as far as like on-ball creation, I haven't looked at the stats recently, but it was like 25 games into Jacoby's career, he had not gotten a blow-by without attacking a closeout yet. Like not a singular one. Yeah. His dribble is not manipulative. When you go to the Baylor tape, like against Auburn, even you're looking at a guy who the ball stays in front of him, and it's like a push dribble and a step back, and it's like everything is like boom, 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 north, south. He's not able to sway people left or right. He can't like break guys down. He needs a triple threat, or he needs a closeout, something like that. And that should be really interesting to watch for Jacoby going forward, is like, does that dribble get wider? Because that's the big thing they brought up with Jalen Suggs as well, too, as a lead guard, was like, well, Jalen has a very skinny dribble. And so he doesn't move guys ever. He's not going to break people down and get past them. And I know that's improved for Jalen somewhat, but that stuff with Jacoby, I'm really interested to see. As you said, though, the defense, especially point of attack defense, without screens, isolation stuff, he's been very sticky. He's been very impressive, and he's been hitting his threes. Is that Aaron Nesmith? Does that range up to KCP? Does that go into like the upper echelon of 3-and-D guys? You can see it. There's a roadmap for Jacoby to be a good NBA player. However, when he got drafted, you and I were wondering about like, what does the creation upside look like? And it's very undetermined at this point. And his first season has not shown much creation off the bounce. However, he's had a little bit off the catch, getting to spots in the mid-range and doing stuff like that. So I'm looking for some stuff off the bounce if he's capable of it. That's where I'm on Jacoby. Gradey, Dick. I mentioned it before. Teams, despite Gradey, I think coming out every second game is kind of like, he's going through it, man. He's having a tough stretch. And last game, I know he got to 10 boards. He had 9 points on 7 shots. He had his last 2 threes. That's nice to see. But on the whole, he wasn't able to shake loose. And between like having Andrew Wiggins or Davion Mitchell on him over the course of the game, sometimes Tyler Hero, but not as often, he was glued too. He had a tough time getting off ball. And he's also sometimes just like open shots are coming to him and he's not hitting them at the same rate that he was. I suspect that's because of flow and fatigue. However, what we need to see from Gradey, what I hope to see from Gradey, is a little bit of a step defensively, because I'll be honest, it came at the start of the season rather than towards the end. But as far as what I expected to see in his second season from Gradey Dick, I've seen pretty much everything I could have asked for. You just want to see it at a more efficient clip. You want to see it at a more efficient rate. What I haven't seen enough of, and what I think has actually gotten worse over the course of the season, is the defense. His defense has really, really struggled, really lagged behind. And I think it's because at the start of the year, he was carrying more weight and he could hang in there. Now he's lost weight over the course of the season. He's having trouble with it. I'm looking for small steps defensively for Gradey to hang in. And some of this is like, yeah, the Raptors put him in tough positions, but also, man, it's some things are hard, but some things are easy, and you're not doing it either, you know?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Gradey, though, offensively, hit some of the easier shots at a higher rate, take your steps, defensively. But it's like Gradey has to put on weight in the summer and keep it on. And he has to be able to like build his body out. And that's going to be a glass ceiling for him until he breaks through it. He's definitely going to feel that. Is there any differences on how you're viewing Gradey?
No, I think it's the same. So the defense will determine like whether he's a future starter for the team or not. Like you've seen it in games where the Raptors, like it hasn't been tenable. He had to have been pulled in certain lineups just because he's being targeted. I think heading into his like him as a prospect, a lot of the hope on defense is, and he still shows us he has the awareness and understands rotations enough to be able to stick within like a team concept. I think with the offensive load that he's had, like that's waned to some degree, and a guy with his foot speed needs to be at the highest tier of knowing where he needs to be in order to beat guys at certain spots and be able to shorten the distance of that athleticism gap between the guys that he's going against. I think one of the games like this year, I think it was the Pacers game that we both were at, where he had to guard Benedict Mathurin, and they went to him over and over again because he wasn't able to get to spots quicker and come over screens. Benedict Mathurin got there and immediately blew by him continually. And that is kind of how the season has played out for me. Like that needs to get to a higher tier, and then show off some of the playmaking stuff that I know that he can do. He showed it in college. A lot of the stuff that Darko has put him in, he's had to be the gunner. He's flying off his screens. He's shooting the most difficult shots. But I do think those can turn into him being able to put down the ball, utilize Jakob as the beautiful safety blanket he's been for the entire team as well. And some of these sessions don't need to lead into you torpedoing yourself into the opposing big, which I do love. Like from a fan perspective, he's very tough, but that playmaking stuff is essential when you're really trying to win. You're really trying to be good, because those are way more efficient shots.
We liked the playmaking. We were waiting on it when the offensive punch was there, and then we're like, okay, now it's time for the playmaking to come along. And then the offensive punch went, and it's like, okay, wait, give back, come. Do you want to talk about Sophia Serrano says, do you worry about Gradey's shot mechanics making 3-point shooting volatile? Yeah, Trey and I have talked about this. I mean, Josh Codera and myself did it in Gradey's rookie season. We did this scout video on him where we talked about how his shot mechanics will change and make his jumper more volatile. Trey and I have often talked about Gradey not as a 42% like sharpshooter, but as a multi-purpose offensive heat pump who is going to give you like maybe some years it's like 36-37% from three, some years it's like 39, but like his shot diet is too difficult and he's doing too many different things to just be a catch and shoot guy. The two motion shot, it's more volatile, it's harder, it's more moving parts, as Josh says, more points of failure. Trey, do you want to talk a little bit about, it wasn't asked, but I think we should talk about it. It's one of the only emerging trends that has been interesting. RJ Barrett's defense. has been better. Like,
Yeah,
right?
it has.
That's true, isn't it?
It is. I remember I texted. I was like, RJ stopped like an off ball move and it turned into a steal. Like
I
he's
scoffed.
showing
I did scoff.
like he's showing more effort, and he's like everything that he's done since he's been a Raptor, like offensively, has been like even above my expectations. Even though I was more bullish than most, both of us were more bullish
So
than most, but
yes,
the defense has been better, and like he's already shown on the Knicks and even the stretch in the Raptors earlier in the year that he can be a part of a good defense. So like him being able to be a bit more sticky off the ball, utilize some of his girth also to be able to take bumps from bigger guys and play up. Also, I think has been exciting to see.
the big thing with RJ for me is that he quietly. The Raptors are now no longer. They're better. They're better with RJ on the floor defensively through I guess, what is it now? Like 2,500 minutes as a Raptor. They're better with RJ on the floor defensively. Some of this is lineup makeup, of course. They're almost 5 points better with him on the floor overall this season. He does improve the offense. The thing is, RJ has always been a player who, and we've talked about this before, hey, I'm trying to contain. I want to keep the ball in front of me. I'm not trying to do too much. Like there's that going on with his game. But what he's been doing lately in the past handful of games is more playmaking, jumping passing lanes, jumping ball handlers. He's actually made plays. And there was like there's a period of games where he was making a bunch of plays on ball and then it disappeared and then it's back to making plays on ball again. As considering who he is and the fact that for the amount of usage he has been one of the like low end block percentage and steal percentage players of like in the NBA. Like
Yeah.
he just does not make plays on the ball defensively. The fact that he's turning the corner, I think is good. And to my eye, people can tell me if I'm wrong, he's been getting burned less. It's funny. Will Smith says Barrett on ball has not been bad. It's off ball that is the watch, in my opinion. The thing is, he's been bad at both in the past. Like he's had times where the off ball stuff has looked a little bit better. He's had times where the on ball stuff has looked a little bit better. But you watch and sometimes you can understand why he fails at both. But then RJ has like sometimes he's making plays off ball and getting those steals, defensive playmaking. But the on-ball stuff has not only been a little bit more punchy, but the off-ball stuff has been more attentive too. And the Raptors' best defensive lineups this season include him. And those best defensive lineups are good. RJ has shown an acumen this season as the Raptors' defense has turned the corner that he can be a part of it. That's big. That's huge. Yep. Now, for when the Raptors are a contending team, we don't know what that team looks like at all, right? We know that it's hard to even fathom what it is. But for this Raptors team that is limited in the way that it is, RJ is like, if not the most important offensive player, at least close to Scottie in moving this offensive forward. And defensively, if he's not tanking the defense, huge. RJ has actually been better defensively, which is like that's a very underrated development if it sticks around, because RJ is a guy who works really hard offensively, is naturally gifted offensively. The catch and shoot jumper is coming around. The finishing at the rim and the driving to the rim is always going to be impactful. He's a good pick and roll basketball player. Those are all good things, talents that you can use. And then if the defense becomes passable, you're talking about a guy who can fit in a bunch more different contexts. Yeah. And RJ has been doing it lately. It's been I've been proud of him watching him.
Yeah. If his defense becomes passable, it changes the landscape of how you build this team. If you can keep him and Sky together within lines, because offensively they truly do they do fit each other like a glove offensively. RJ fits for all the weaknesses Scottie may have in terms of like putting the ball on the floor. RJ makes up for that tremendously, and vice versa with some of the stuff Scottie does inside. You now have 3 guys that can provide high level offense and can work and have playmaking chops, can work together, and it makes building out the rest of the team a lot easier in what you can do. But I guess we'll see with RJ. I've been hoping for the defense to get really like to this level. I think we still probably need to see more, but I want him to be a part of the team long term. But I think the defense will be the deciding point.
Yeah. Will Smith says, "Oh, how I wish he had mid-range game overall." Yeah, he hit one yesterday, and he did hit one when I was watching Court of Gold. He hit one. Remember, I was like, "Oh yeah," and yeah, RJ, he's still young and he still works really hard. I'm in the same boat as you. I know like RJ is not the sexy player, and he's definitely like not the archetype that people dream on, and especially since he is young, but there's so much tape on him, and a lot of it is not glamorous. A lot of people hand wave RJ away really quickly. And I hope he finds his way to like improvement, and I hope he's part of the team going forward. That would be fun to me. That's the Raptors of the future that I prefer. But I guess we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, Ricky says Court of Gold has been a blast so far. Do you think Scottie makes the team in 2028, or does he team up with RJ? Okay, firstly, Scottie. Nobody from Florida has ever become Canadian. A lot of Canadians have become Floridians. However,
yeah, it's a tough trade.
No Floridian has ever become Canadian. Also, Scottie is, Scottie, he apparently has a Cybertruck now. Another indicator that he will not become Canadian. Like having a Cybertruck is a big time red, white, and blue indicator. You know what I mean? They looked at my blood. I didn't have DNA. I had USA.
Just awful. Like having a Cybertruck in downtown Toronto is just like a nightmare scenario. I don't understand why any human would want one.
The first time I ever saw a Cybertruck, and I think vice versa, you and I were together, and we're like, wow, that is horrific. Yeah, sorry, Scottie, but I hate the Cybertruck. Yeah, could Scottie make the 2028 Olympic roster? Certainly he could. The only problem with the Scottie thing is that Bam is like a staunch member of that program. Bam is a huge part of it. They love Bam, and Scottie is a tough fit with Bam, I think. And yeah, but I mean, he could I guaranteed it last episode. I said that Scottie will be an All NBA player by 2028. So an All NBA player should be able to get on the Olympics roster.
Yeah, right? I think so. Because like Bam in 2028, 4 years from now, he'll be early 30s. So there, I think by then there's the possibility that he's the better player. And I think like he's probably small for a Euro big. Also, that's kind of the challenge too. But like Scottie rebounds really high at a high level for his size, and like defensively, like being a playmaker in that standpoint, like that even they were very close. The US was very close to using. I was on my knees begging for them to lose, but like they didn't have a lot of defensive playmakers. Like even in watching those games, and like Scottie would be one of those guys. So I'm gonna lean yes that he will.
I think so too. And I know Scottie like hasn't been a big like he was as a kid part of the Team USA situation, and he hasn't really been super involved since. But I think it'll come around. And also some of this stuff just is due to like Scottie has to want to do that. He has to be okay with breaking up his offseason regimen and what he wants. And by 2028, I think Scottie will probably be a member of that team. RJ and 2028 Canada, the big swing, like RJ is obviously going to be a huge part of that team. I think that Shea is the biggest part of that team. I'll say no holds barred. Shea, the best player on that team, not Kelly Olynyk. And I'm really excited, though, for Zach Edey to be part of that. And Dylan Brooks, I think, will still be around. Wiggins, maybe not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
He'll be a little old. A guy like Dort will still be there. But the Raptors do need a couple new guys to come in. They do need who's the one guy, Olivier Roux or whatever. Maybe he's
he's a big boy.
Maybe they just are like the big front court bastards is the Zach Edey and Roux. But yeah, I think man. I think the Raptors, or not Raptors, the Team Canada should be fun.
Yeah. Canada, like, we've had a kind of like a cold streak. We haven't had like a big time Canadian prospect in a probably like 4 or 5 years. Who's the I guess Benedict Mathurin? Edey, I guess. Yeah.
Mathurin. But Mathurin got buzz, Arizona, but it wasn't huge. And he actually jumped later. Like, he went up in the draft from what people thought it might be.
Yeah.
Nemhard didn't have
no.
People didn't think he had a bunch of juice. Yeah. Because we had a run. Boy, did we have a run.
It was golden era. So they need like 1 or 2 guys to really pop before 2018. 2028.
Shaden Sharp is a good shout from chat. Shaden Sharp, maybe he popped the hell off. Because Shaden wasn't part of it. However, he should be. Like, Shaden is oozing potential. Like, he can do anything. He's like a bigger, more explosive Terrence Ross. And Terrence Ross was like, oh, this guy oozes potential. It's like Shaden is bigger and he's more talented. Like, let's see something happen with it. Rip D Rose says, I still believe in Leonard Miller. That would be really fun if Leonard Miller became like a hustle guy in the vein, similar size to, the crew of feckless tweeners that just couldn't do anything against France last year. Leonard Miller, if he can bring bring the axe to the grindstone and be able to do something for Team Canada, he will have my heart. That's a fun one, I think.
Yeah, I keep seeing Jeremiah Fears references. When we do get to him, that is one of my faves in the draft. Just for anyone in chat.
People probably love it because I fear is such a big part of everyone's lexicon now. Could you imagine if some kid had the last name Demon? How many fan cams?
That would go crazy. Fears is like another one of those like dribble drive guys like the Raptors really need, like a bit on the thinner side, and he just turned 18, so it would be like a long-term projection, but he's one of the guys I'm excited to talk about.
So Goose asks, can we get a breakdown of Brandon Ingram's phone stickers? Hell yeah, dude. I've got them seared into my memory. We've got SpongeBob SquarePants. We've got Barack Obama. And we've got Bernie Sanders. What does this tell you about? And for a Raptors team that is very, seems very Pentecostal. very, very, very Pentecostal American. There, Davion used to be Cybertruck, Scottie Cybertruck. We got a lot of that kind of stuff. Does Brandon help swing the tide? He came in and Brandon did not thank God immediately. Is Brandon perhaps a sea change? You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. It's kind of weird. Brandon Ingram is like an OG of the team. Like, he's one of the oldest players on the team, which is odd. But I think both politicians I'm a fan of, so that's a good sign. And I think just overall, if he likes SpongeBob and he's odd and goofy, that kind of fits the theme of the guys that we already have. So I think they're going to gel really well, and I still think it's super duper cool that he picked Toronto, and this is where he actually wanted to be. We had a depressing 10 minutes of right before the trade deadline. Nobody ever picks here. We never get a free agent that's been good or someone that actively wanted to be here, and that happened 3-4 days later, which is insane.
You can tell you're from Toronto and I'm not, because I don't. Well, actually, I have 2 jokes because I'm not paying that much attention. He picked us. I'm like, fuck. Because I don't even think about that stuff because nobody has ever picked Saskatchewan. It won't happen. I didn't even pick Saskatchewan, dude. Neither did my parents.
In the
Go ahead.
CFL, I feel like someone's like fist pumping like when what's his name? I forgot the quarterback's name. Where he went to Saskatchewan. It was a big. I'm sure it was a big deal for you guys. I need to
Which
remember his name.
quarterback? Was it Darian Durant? Because Darian Durant
N-
was the guy who won. They won the Grey Cup with him, and he was on the cover of the NCAA game too with Boise
He
State.
was.
Yeah, but man,
Oh, I'm thinking of Zach Claros.
I
That ring a bell?
he went to the Rough Riders.
He did.
Oh, good. I'm glad for him. I don't pay that much attention to the CFL. I used to watch games when I was a kid because they'd be on, and everybody from Saskatchewan is a total nut for the Rough Riders. You know, my dad, he had a jersey he'd wear. We had the boxes of cereal that would come at the co-op. The co-op is also the most famous grocery store in Saskatchewan. Anyway, a lot of nonsense. I also was going to say 66.6% of the content on Brandon's phone screen or phone is political, and you didn't manage to wade a single toe into that water. You just said, "Oh, he likes SpongeBob. That's nice."
I said I'm a fan of both. I said he's a fan of both. I'm a fan of both politicians. I felt the burn at one point when Barack when Barack got inaugurated. I sat my little 12-year-old self down and watched and said, "Wow, Tupac was wrong."
Dude, wait, can we do? I know this isn't like this isn't maybe basketball podcasting, but like when Barack, like walk me through that, and I'll walk you through how it was for me, because I knew because at that point in my life I knew like 4 black people.
And I guess I know. Wait, did you know a leg by then?
No.
Oh wow. I think for me it was like the song changed by Tupac. We're like, yo, we'll never see a black president. So that rang home to me. I was like, I never thought I would see something like this, like in my life, that this would happen. So like I remember in school, like we stopped in school, we had an assembly and everybody watched it, which is like odd because we're Canadian, to be honest, but like it was super important and something I always remember.
It was so in my house, it was ongoing, like, and I remember my dad just being like, "Sons, watch this. Like, this is history. This means something." And my brother and I are just like, "Wow!" Like, holy smokes! Couldn't believe it. I had no political understanding, but I was like, "Well, he did seem cool, though." That's something Barack Obama always, like, especially with what came afterwards.
Good shot mechanics. I think his best shot. I think if a one-on-one tournament,
in a suit.
Yeah, it's super clean. It's super fluid, and like 9 times out of 10, all the clips I've seen, he's made the shot. So he has to be a good hooper.
Yeah. And as for the Bernie stuff, I know Bernie, his popularity is waxed and waned, but anybody who listens to this podcast with regularity, especially my end of it, I am a staunch working class politics person. So yeah, Bernie has a special place in my heart as well. I know there's a rise in like right wing politics or whatever. If anybody is a right wing politics person listening to this and you're upset that we like Bernie, shove off. Oh man. So Esfandiar Berahini asks, "Hey Samson, longtime listener, first time caller. I wanted to ask what you think the biggest issue is with consumerism as it relates to the NBA, and why is Tre part of the problem? Thanks." So this I think we can use to like pad out the end of the podcast mostly, which is like that the NBA is wrapped up in how it wants to appeal and its commercial viability versus its watchability and how that looks like. And you, as somebody who's very good in these fields, marketing, you will understand this from a few different angles. So here we go. What is wrong with the NBA? Well, I saw somebody point out that over All-Star Weekend, the thing that played the best on their social media, the things that did the best on NBA TikTok or NBA Instagram, all those kinds of stuff, was the things that everybody was complaining about. The people were watching the game and saying, "This sucks. Why is there, all these ads? Why am I seeing Mr. Beast? Like why am I seeing Mr. Beast? Why have they said the name Jesser 86 times during the NBA dunk contest? I guess he was a judge. Whatever. Why does Tristan Jast walking around like he's Pac when Trey and I roll up to Summer League? You know what I mean? Why is everything influencer? And it's because that stuff plays well on the secondary market or whatever. And this is really interesting because everybody has to contend with where the internet is going in terms of what its viewership looks like, and everything has to contend with where TV viewership is. And TV viewership is the big sexy number that sells and has the influx of cash to the league. But there is the NBA is always worried about like retention rate. They're worried about competing with the I guess people, their attention spans are lowering and all that kind of stuff. And so they're making these bite-sized segments. And to people who comment and people who, watch these things, it seems very like, hey, what the hell is going on here? This sucks ass. But to people who simply don't comment and simply just consume and do so on Instagram and TikTok, they're like, I'm watching the NBA. And I think that's the big motivation there. And then as far as consumerism, you're looking at infinite growth, which is not possible. Every corporation tied up in the idea that you have to maintain infinite growth, and the shortcuts they take to get there, what their ideas for, jobs look like becomes untenable. It trickles down society. We have harder and harder lives, that kind of stuff. It's all there. But Trey, where's your part in this?
Well, I'll touch on what stuff you said. Like the NBA out of all of the sports provides the best second screen experience. It's very clear that they've targeting that 18 to 25 age demo, and because of that standpoint, the NBA is the easiest to consume in terms of highlights and clips, and understanding you get even content that's geared towards the players that you like the most. And while that allows you to consume information and content in a larger way, I didn't even know Brandon Ingram had a legion of fans and stands that generate and can create their own secondary content.
Dude.
I had no idea, but there's now content that I'm consuming about Brandon Ingram that I had no idea about. The idea of pushing a star first league creates that standpoint. So you're getting clips, you're getting information that's generated about that particular player and highlights about that particular player. A lot of that helps produce more secondary content, which is why the NBA, in terms of Twitter, is probably the best experience. But that also takes away from the viewership and the need to watch the game. I'll use Brandon Ingram as an example. If I'm a Brandon Ingram fan over necessarily being a Toronto Raptor fan, I need to know how many points he had in that game. I can get a video that's curated on how he played in that game. I can understand Brandon Ingram has had a good 5-game stretch within a season. He's averaging 30 points a game and not watch any of those 5 games. And I can use those numbers, use that content, and then have more discussion with other people about Brandon Ingram across the internet. And that the barrier to understanding what's going on is significantly lower. You don't need to watch the games in order to talk about your favorite player, understand what's going on. And that's kind of the grass that between wanting to get good content, wanting to get a good game and good discussion, things like that going on over mass producing content. So NBA is what their desire is. They're doing a really good job of it, because even the NFL, I'm a huge fan of, probably just as much as basketball. If Mark Andrews for anyone who doesn't watch, Mark Andrews fumbled the ball in Baltimore, he lost in the game essentially.
Mm-hmm.
If that happened in the NBA, J.R. Smith is actually the perfect example. J.R. Smith to this day gets memed to death about what happened, just because people enjoy that content over the actual game itself.
Yeah, the periphery stuff, the adjacent stuff. This also I don't know how a corporation attempts to do this. It's kind of how to get on top of memes and try and monetize them, right? It's a very tricky thing. And the NBA clearly has a lot of meme power and clearly has a lot of power outside of the first, like the basketball is played and then a million other things emerge as things that you can sell. And the NBA is trying to get on top of being the ones who sell it. It's why Evan Gualberto, for example, he and I used to do a podcast together. He's a coach, and many people kind of grew up watching Evan Gualberto highlights on his YouTube channel. Sharpshooter, Steph Curry, slick mid-range from Tim Duncan. He did all this kind of stuff. And then the NBA, what they started doing was oh, there's a huge appetite for this. Let's start just doing that ourselves. Let's not have Evan Gualberto compile all this stuff. Let's just do it ourselves because we want to be the ones who own that. We want to be the ones who are doing that. And they're trying to get on top of all this kind of stuff. And how do you do that? Through influencers who redirect it back to you so you can kind of get on top of it. But it is really interesting because, as you mentioned, you're trying to tackle something that is happening at a societal level, which is the star-driven aspect of the NBA. Meant that it was ripe for the growing idolatry that is happening in our society currently, right? We've seen celebrity worship is at an all-time high. You mentioned how, if you like Brandon Ingram or whatever player you really like, you can just kind of live in that world. I watch the Brandon Ingram highlights. I watch the Brandon Ingram fan cam. I read the Brandon Ingram thing. I talk about Brandon Ingram. I argue about Brandon Ingram. He's my profile picture. He's my header. He's 80% of the content of my tweets. Imagine it's 1997 and you
Horace Grant's.
That's actually who I was gonna think of. Wow, that's crazy. I was trying to think of his name in my mind. I was like, Goggles Bulls. Wow. Whoa, same brain, dude. Jeez. So anyway, let's say it's Horace Grant, and you go to the bar again, and you just won't shut the hell up about Horace Grant. Everyone is like, dude, shut up. We don't want to talk about Horace Grant. We don't care about Horace Grant that much. But now, if you like Horace Grant that much, there's 27 other people. They'll put on their little Horace Grant hat with you, and you guys can just go around and terrorize people about Horace Grant if you so choose. And this is actually what I'm going to talk to KD about tomorrow, because I know he has a decent, in my mind, a decent understanding of it. But the idolatry mixed with because it used to be that a TV show is a TV show, right?
Yeah.
It's on TV and it's made for people. Now people view content as if it's made for them and as if it's personally tailored to them, because they're told algorithmically that this is in your interest. We want to keep serving you with what you like. So people view content more so they have an ownership over it, even as a viewer. And so that happens with NBA players, that happens with the NBA, and people just personalize everything with themselves. It becomes part of themselves. So I don't know, societally, that's happening in a bunch of different fields. And then it's manifesting very much in the NBA, which is a star-driven league where players are very visible. How do you untie these things? Or do you just lean into it further until, we're looking at it now. Players have these incredibly obsessive fan bases that just kind of sit and stew in them nonstop. What does that look like in 10 years, dude? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they've become pro athletes are influencers within themselves.
Yes,
they can direct traffic and direct whether positive or good things towards anyone. So it becomes a real challenge. I don't think you can untether the idea of stars being being more popular than teams, to be honest, just because it's a visible game. They're not wearing helmets and jerseys, and the star of an NBA team is just significantly more important than any other player in pro sports. But I do think you can change stuff within a format. The Olympics are a perfect example. There's stars within this game, and even in that doc, Steph Curry having an iconic moment, LeBron winning MVP, things like that. But it still was about the actual game. So I think putting stuff within that aspect, I miss the NBA having divisions and like knowing that this matchup is super important between these two teams. There's reason to dislike this team also because you're playing for X division spot, X seed within the playoffs. I just think the format within the regular season doesn't behold anyone to not care about the results and not necessarily not care about the result, but each individual game is just another step towards more content and getting to the playoffs, which is like the end driver of whether your season was good or bad. I think just having that mix up and making the regular season more important is probably like the easiest fix.
Yeah. I really don't know how you I don't know how you remove the standum. Like, you'll never remove the standum, but it
Yeah.
seems like it's clearly the motivator for where everything is going
Mhm.
forward, and that, like, singular player stardom, even though guys like Jimmy ultimately got his way, but it didn't end up how he would have liked. The player empowerment in
Yeah.
relation to teams maybe is losing some of its luster. Like, Luka just got traded, right?
Yeah.
However, player empowerment and stars as the province of, like, this is where the power of the league comes from. I don't know how you ever remove that, and the fact that that's multiplied however many times by stan culture, which is growing more and more prevalent as more people spend time inside, more people spend time in online spaces as opposed to real spaces. Like, I don't know. It will be very interesting to see how the NBA chooses to market itself, and to even not just market itself, but to present the game. I have no idea. Maybe Wemby, once the deep vein thrombosis gets sorted out, maybe he's the salve to this, because he seems like he rejects a lot of that kind of stuff. So maybe he's the right face of the league going forward.
For the first time, I only saw really like the clips of the All-Star game. Like I think me and you said we're kind of out on it, but his clip of him being upset about defense is the first time I've ever seen that in my lifetime. So like maybe just because the league is getting, there's less American-born stars, and the next generation might be led with a French player being the best player. I would say that's probably the likely outcome.
Yeah.
That might change and sort of thing because he doesn't seem to care about a lot of like the proliferary stuff going around him.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see.
Well, it's interesting too, right? Like, it's on the one hand, because this is the thing. It's hard to. You watched the hockey games, and there's clearly a separate culture between these two games. But the thing, how can you blame NBA players? I have such a tough time blaming NBA players for just like focusing on getting the bag. One, I can't blame you for that. And then two, players who prioritize their branding and like their brand and all that stuff going forward. I mean, it is like, it's tough. Sophia Serrano says, "Look at you guys stereotyping certain stars or American stars." No, just because we describe Wemby as one way does not mean that American stars are the inverse. You're jumping the shark there. But how do you get a player? Like, how do you bring back these aspects of like, okay, the team above everything, all this kind of stuff, when it's clearly like, well, again, Luka got traded. There's guaranteed contracts. Players, they have to look out for themselves. It's like, there's I don't know how you put the genie back in the bottle. I don't think it's
tough. Yeah, because I in chat, I guess like we've discussed like how does like an NBA 4 nations like look like, but like does that change the fact that does an NBA player try because you've replaced this and now they're playing for America,
I
and
think
Serbia.
I think next year, if they do the NHL 4 Nations thing, I don't think it'll pop the same way. I think this was a unique cultural moment. Like,
and
generally.
It was 10-year gap between they played too. So that adds level of hatred, adds a level of need for this type of game. So like, I guess it's tough to see, but best all-star format I've ever seen. It was incredible.
It worked really well, but I think it's because it was new. I think it's because it was it was good. Man, but again, what we're talking about now is not the All-Star game. for what it's worth. Like the All-Star game is, you know, an inflection point, but I think like this is corporations, like whether I know this is just a basketball podcast, but like how corporations try to speak to people and how people respond to that will be huge factors for like life over the next however long.
Yeah.
Trey, any thoughts before we get out of here? Oh, wait, quickly. Ochai Lottie and Nassim Ali. If we lowered a basketball rim to about 8 feet, who would win a slam dunk contest between you two, and who would depend the most on props? How's your ankle?
I tried to skip with 1 foot. No bueno. So I don't think I'm winning a dunk competition. A year ago though, I think I could get a windmill off at 8 foot rim, maybe a 360.
You could definitely get it on a 8 foot. Yeah, of course, man. I think both of us could probably windmill on 9.
Yeah.
I bet like, I definitely can't dunk anymore. I could dunk on 9.5. Maybe I could dunk on 9 and 7, but I haven't been able to dunk. I haven't dunked since the pandemic, dude. Nasty business. But who do you like on a? I feel like it's easier for me to win on a shorter rim because you're just the bigger you are, the harder it is. Like you on an 8 foot rim, nothing's gonna look cool.
it like even like when Dwight Howard won it, like doesn't look the same as like when Nate Robinson's doing his thing. Even Matt McClung when he's doing his dunks, it just like looks less impressive overall.
And your standing reach is probably like 8 feet.
Yeah, that's
or
fair too.
Close to it. Probably like 7'10", 7'11".
8 foot rim, I most likely be able to grab. Yeah,
because you probably wouldn't even have to jump really. But I think the voters would be in my favor because I'm smaller in stature than Trey. But we got to wait till Trey and I used to be in competition with everything, but we got to wait till he's healthy, and then we got to get back into some of this competition. All right. Anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
I'm grinding. Thank you for everyone who's messaging me. I am grinding. I've been watching prospect film. I've been writing down notes. I think I need like 2 weeks of like to get to like the proliferary guys, like anywhere that, because the Raptors are going to have a high second round pick too. So there's those prospects to consider. But like the top 5 guys, like I have a top 5. I'm pretty locked in on those guys. So like we could start there and then like build as we go.
Hell yeah. Yeah, there will be lots of draft stuff coming. Mixel Qual says, would you ever film and post a one-on-one basketball game between the two of you? There is from the desert game. S posted one-on-one between myself, S, Josh, and Trey. If you want to go find it, you probably be able to watch it. But no, Trey and I have never set up a camera specifically just for us two. Maybe if the podcast reaches like year 5, or maybe if this thing really pops off, and maybe if there's a unique brand opportunity, like if Mountain Dew wants us to play one-on-one.
Oh, I'll do anything for Mountain Dew.
Yes, dude. We're waiting on Peanut Punch and Mountain Dew, dude.
Yeah, fact.
Yeah, for anybody listening, feel free to email and tell them like, hey, there's a podcast you should be sponsoring. Reach out. We need an en masse email campaign. Joseph Cassidy says R versus Ho and welcome, dude. Waxed. No,
that's money.
Chance,
Easy
dude.
money.
No chance, dude. Will, Alex, Jerome, I want to play you guys.
For anyone who watches Hello and Welcome, let them know we want to play. We'll do a 3-on-3. We'll add S into this.
Yeah, that would be actually fun. Because he's the producer, technically.
Yeah. So
that would be fun. Yeah, that would be. Oh my God! Today they're playing basketball. Actually, I think they're doing an event and playing basketball. So I hope Hello and Welcome is having a blast doing that.
Nice.
And shout out to everyone who gets to play basketball today. Enjoy. I love playing basketball. Oh, in 2 days is the media game. Do you have any predictions from the outside perspective?
So I haven't seen a lot of these guys hoop. I feel like you can get me at minimum 15 points though. Like,
15 is a lot in those games.
how long are the games? Is it like regulation like time? How long is it?
No, they're shorter to some degree. I don't even remember what last year's was. But also, like, you don't want to be a ball hog. It's just like media people, just like, yeah. Slomo says Doug Smith drops 40. Doug doesn't play. I'd love for Doug to be out there, though, dude.
Yeah. Does Grange play? I feel like he's nice.
Grange is nice. He doesn't play anymore, though. I've tried to get him out to our runs before, and he's like, nah. He's like, I'm preserving the body at this point. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Although Grange was, I imagine is still a good player, but was a very strong player. He played college basketball. I don't remember where, but yeah, he played college basketball. Last year, Gavin was the MVP, and he played for the U of T, or U of T, not the U of T. But he's on the production side of things. I don't know who's competing this year. I'll be honest. Blake is playing though, so it's his return to the court for the first time in however long. I haven't played basketball in like 4 months, dude.
Man, I was even looking, like, thinking back. I haven't played basketball since the summer. It's like the longest stretch I've ever gone since like the pandemic. It was crazy.
Yeah. It's too cold, man. It's cold in this house. It's cold outside. I hate winter, dude. Got me sick.
Absolute worst. I don't understand people that wake up and be like, wow, it's snowing. I'm so happy this is happening. Like, insane.
Snow as its own thing, fine. Like snow, whatever, every once in a while, but like sheer cold, die, dude. Just relax. Just don't. The pro winter people, they confuse me. Don't you like being warm? The sun on you. Oh, your nice bald dome, getting a little tan. You know what I mean? That feels like a podcast, yeah.
Yeah.
A rambly one. One of our most rambly ever. Spent like 15 minutes on corporate politics.
For sure.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. From myself, from Trey. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps promote the podcast afterwards. I'll see you. Have a blessed day, and goodbye.